Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. This is Rapid Fire episode 36, and Vince Russo is a piece of shit. How's that for a start? Let me lay a little bit of groundwork as to why he's a piece of shit. If you've watched Stevie Ray's Stand Up for Greatness podcast, if you haven't, check it out. It's really awesome. Title Match Wrestling's got a few clips and a couple full episodes. Really good stuff. Stevie Ray and his co-host Matt do a lot of really good stuff. Look, let's just be honest about something. Russo is very divisive. Now, is he the worst guy in the world? Is he the worst thing to happen to wrestling? I still say Jim Herd's the worst thing to happen to wrestling. I mean, I'm going to stand by that, until the day I die. That Jim Herd did more damage to WCW than Russo did. But that being said, Russo is so far up his own ass he could practically sniff his own damn stomach. Now, as for the Stand Up for Greatness podcast, I'm going to take a minute to put over some people as part of Title Match Wrestling. Title Match Wrestling's got some great content, interviews, and all that stuff and everything, and they're great. They're great people. At least the people that are putting up the interviews and stuff like that. I don't know about everybody that works there. I don't know that. But Title Match Wrestling's got some really, good stuff and some good, hardworking people there. And Stevie Ray's Stand Up for Greatness podcast is wonderful. Now, also, another podcast that's on there, and also on his own personal YouTube channel, is the Andre Corbeil Show. Andre, him and I don't always agree on stuff, but Andre's a really good guy. Andre used to work for Vince Russo. He's had his own show for a while. He's done a great job building his own brand for a number of years. He's a hardworking guy. Works really hard to get some great interviews, and I've seen quite a few of his interviews. He did an interview with Nikita Koloff recently, which was a very fun interview. He's done some interviews with a lot of really cool wrestlers, and a lot of wrestlers that others aren't able to get to interview. And I like Andre. Again, him and I don't always agree on everything, whether it's whether it has to do with politics or wrestling or life events or whatever, but we always have spirited discussions. We don't ever come to blows or threaten to block each other on Twitter or get ready to tear each other's faces off. We have spirited discussions. So okay, he's a cool guy. But I've contributed content to his show. I don't think that that's really any secret. Some people know about it, not a lot of people do. But I've contributed content to his show for a number of months, and I'm really happy to be able to do that. It's really nice that somebody appreciated my content that much that they wanted me to produce exclusive content for their show, and that's what I do. I could take the videos that I send to him and put them on my own YouTube channel, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do that because I like to produce content, and I will produce exclusive content for other people if they want. I want to just put that out there. If you have your own YouTube channel and you want me to send you a clip, send it to your email and you burn it and put it on your own show, I will gladly do that. Especially if I know you. If I don't know you, I probably wouldn't necessarily do that. But if I get to know you, especially if it's somebody that has their own YouTube channel that I follow and I'm subscribed to it, I would absolutely do that. But Andre's a good guy. I'm really happy to be part of that, a small part of the brand, of his brand, and be able to produce content. It's really cool to be to have my content featured on a Title Match Wrestling or a channel like Title Match Wrestling. So it's really cool. And I just want to say I'm really honored about that. And also want to put over Andre, because Andre does work really hard with his channel. Is a really hardworking guy. Clearly loves pro wrestling, and that's what's great about it. Is if you love pro wrestling, you keep and you want to make it your life, and you want to work really hard about it, and you want to be a fan, you want to be informed, and you want to have fun with it. That's what's great about it. Is being a passionate wrestling fan. So Andre's a really good guy. Also, a couple of other YouTube channels I want to put over. I do want to put over again Stevie Ray's Stand Up for Greatness podcast, and I will get back to that in just a minute. But also, WWE NXT guy, Justin produces some great content on his YouTube channel. Don't get down on yourself, Justin. You're a really good guy. You really work hard. You are a good guy. You're a good guy. Good, passionate wrestling fan. Also, Graham GSM Matthews, Wrestle Rant. One of my favorite channels on YouTube. One of my favorite channels. One of my favorite people to talk to on Twitter. I don't get all the chances to talk to the guy, but I've also called in on his internet radio show, which I encourage you to check out, Wrestle Rant Radio. The guy's really good. Great wrestling fan, great mind. It's going to go really far in life. Whether it's in wrestling, whether it's in any other line of work. Graham, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm a bit older than you, so I'm going to say kid, but I mean it with respect. He as far as like, young man, he's gonna work. He's gonna be something big. He's gonna be a big. He's gonna be a big name wherever he goes. If he gets into wrestling, great. It's like as far as being creative, being part of creative or whatever, or booking. I think he could do that just fine. But yeah, Graham's just a great guy, and so is Justin, and so is Andre. So is Andre Corbeil. They're really good people on YouTube. Vontae, WWE, Vontae on Twitter. Vontae, get back into making some YouTube videos. I'm sure you've been busy, but try to get back into some making some stuff because you made some really good videos. And you and I also have spirited discussions. So I want to take a moment to put people over like that because there's really hardworking wrestling fans on YouTube that are trying to make the best content that they can. Personally, I'm always down on my own content. I mean, we're always like down on our own work more, but I really do appreciate when people do give me good feedback or any feedback, quite frankly, on my videos. I recently had a bunch of people pick on, or some person pick on me because of my review of Mother because they said I didn't get the deeper meaning. There was nothing to get because the movie thought it was smarter than it really was. But anyway, let me get back to my main point now that I put people over. I want to make it clear that anybody that has worked for Vince Russo or anybody that currently works for Vince Russo, I have no heat with you. I have no heat with you because we all work the jobs we need to, work with the people we have to provide a living. That's great. But I want to squarely focus on Vince Russo because recently he had Stevie Ray on his own podcast, which, shockingly, yes, Russo still has his own show. I don't know how the views are. I don't know how the listener numbers are. I don't know if they're that high. I don't know. I don't care. But Vince Russo was so insulting to Stevie Ray. I was asking Stevie, who did you ever beat? And talking about Booker T said at Bash at the Beach, or sometime shortly, I think sometime around that Vince Russo was the brother that Booker T never had. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't have a clue. I will say this, though, that if Russo made that up, that's a really bad look. Not that that would be the first time he made anything up. He is not an honorable man like he says. He's not any of those things. And he's not. I mean, sorry. I've never gotten the honorable view from him. I've just never gotten the honorable vibe from him. I don't like Russo. I don't like Russo himself. People that work for him, not saying that. But, honestly, guys, Russo's an idiot. And he is. He's an idiot. He believes his own hype too goddamn much. He thinks that people still care enough that they would give him a job in wrestling when he's proven time and time again that, away from the watchful eye of Vince McMahon, the more talented Vince, the more brilliant Vince, even now, Vince McMahon this week has forgotten more about wrestling than Russo ever knew in his entire little run in WWE, WCW, and NWA TNA. Which, yes, he was responsible for getting Impact Wrestling kicked off of Spike TV. He is partly responsible because they didn't want him to be part of the company at all, and Dixie hired him in secret. But don't tell anybody, because that's a great way to do things. Deceive your bosses, proving that Dixie Carter's an idiot. But let me say this much. Does Vince Russo deserve to be told to die, to get cancer, to this kind of stuff? I'm not saying I said it, but does he deserve that kind of stuff? No, because here's why. As annoying as Vince is, as much of an idiot as Russo is, as much of, quite frankly, a prick as Vince Russo is. He's not a rapist, he's not a pedophile, he's not anything that bad. He's not a killer. Anybody that says that Vince Russo, caused the death of Owen Hart, no. That was a freak accident. That was an absolute freak accident. And I will not listen to that. Because, I don't respect Russo at all, but I'm not going to call him something he's not. And I'm not going to wish death or disease on the guy. But I will say that I am embarrassed that he was ever associated with the wrestling business, at least beyond WWE, because I'm sorry, he was partly responsible for ruining WCW. Partly, not completely, because AOL Time Warner, that whole merger and everything, that was going to ruin WCW, and WCW wasn't going to be able to be salvaged. Now, I'm not saying that Vince Russo necessarily helped, because with all his hamstrung booking, he tanked the ratings pretty damn quickly. I mean, he just didn't know what he was doing. He didn't. I mean, and Ed Ferrara didn't know what he was doing. Ed Ferrara never knew what he was doing except to make fun of JR, because Ed Ferrara is a fat fucking piece of shit that should be slapped repeatedly for making fun of a man's Bell's palsy. And that's exactly how I feel about Ed fucking Ferrara, the garbage heap that he is. And Jim Cornette was right. And by the way, I am a Jim Cornette fan. I want to make that clear. I don't always agree with everything Jim Cornette says. But when Jim Cornette told a story about spitting in Ed Ferrara's face, it's a good thing that he did that. It's just a damn shame that nobody was allowed to repeatedly spit in Ed Ferrara's face until he was covered and everything. And that's the kind of public humiliation that should happen for people like Ed Ferrara. Because Ed Ferrara is disgusting and worthless. Him, people like Mark Madden, who's a heartless, stupid son of a bitch. And somebody that never belonged in the wrestling business. And he doesn't want to block people on Twitter because that would be giving attention to the insignificant. Here's the thing, Mark. The reason that we don't like you, the reason a lot of fans don't like you, Mark Madden, and I don't know why anybody would, is because you're a fat, disgusting, worthless fuck that actually thinks that you mattered in wrestling. WCW was stupid to hire you. They were stupid. And if DDP did get you fired, it's a good thing he did get you fired, because you were the worst color commentator. You were worse than Steve Mongo McMichael. You were worse than, you were worse than Rob Bartlett. You're almost as bad as Josh Matthews. I think Josh Matthews actually is considerably worse, because Josh has been in the business a long time and has actually somehow managed to get worse at his job. And sorry, Josh Matthews is terrible at his job. And then during a tribute tweet to Bobby Heenan, had to make it about himself. But then again, that's Josh Matthews for you. But back to, forget Mark Madden, forget Ed Ferrara. We're going to go back to Vince Russo. He helped the careers of so many people. He ruined the careers of a lot of people with a lot of characters. Terry, the whole thing with her getting pregnant and then miscarrying, she was never able to really be seen in the same way again. At least for a good while. Because, they did that, but they didn't have any way to get out of the whole thing. The beaver cleavage character, all that kind of stuff. Let me just get back to the point of the Stevie Ray Stand Up for Greatness podcast. It's great stuff because Stevie Ray shoots from the hip. Stevie Ray had Vince Russo, this horrible, horrible wrestling booker. I'm not going to say horrible human being, even though I don't think Vince Russo's a great human being. He's not any of the things, the horrible, things that I mentioned before. At least he's not any of those, so that's a plus. But he thinks the wrestling fans are gay because they would send him a shirtless pic of a wrestler. Not that it's hard to find a shirtless pic of a wrestler. But yeah, let's automatically assume people are gay. I know that that's a bit of old news, but great job, Russo. Way to be respectful like the Bible taught you to, the fairy tale book that it is. That I would rip up a copy of the Bible and throw it at your feet and say, now what? I almost said throw it in his face, but I don't want to desecrate paper by having to touch Vince Russo's face. I don't like Vince Russo. In case you haven't figured that out. I have no respect for Vince Russo. But at the same time, I will not call him things he's not. But he is a disgusting human being at times. The fact that he, thinks less of women because he believes a fairy tale book. It's like, Eve came from Adam's rib, or however the hell that thing was. However the hell that story goes. That, women are less than men because of what a fairy tale book says. Well, that proves that Russo's an idiot. But back to the Stevie Ray podcast, the Stand Up for Greatness podcast. What was great about what Stevie Ray did is he called out Russo on all the bullshit. All the bullshit. And all Russo could do is, wait, bro, listen, bro, this, bro, that, bro, seriously, if the guy cut bro out of his own show and his own vocabulary, his sentences would be about this small. About the size of Donald Trump's hands, actually. Who's somebody that Russo voted for. But then again, a lot of people voted, or some people voted for Trump. They wouldn't mind voting for Russo for president, God help us. But they voted for Trump as president. I'm going to cut that to the side. But the reason I side with Jim Cornette is because Jim Cornette's been right about Russo. Now, the whole restraining order thing proves that Vince Russo is a coward because he didn't want to face, somebody, which I'm sorry, Cornette would have not, as strong as, as strong-willed as Cornette is, he wouldn't have gone to jail, and there's no way that a fight would have actually happened. No damn way. Not at all. There's no way that would have happened. But let me just say this, especially about the Stevie Ray Stand Up for Greatness podcast. Vince Russo is somebody that can't admit that he's a complete failure in wrestling. He was a complete failure. I'm not saying he's a failure at life, because he's got a wife and he's got 2 kids. And they haven't gotten divorced. Him and his wife haven't gotten divorced. They seem to have a happy marriage. I'm not here to discuss that because I don't know how their marriage is. I don't really give a shit. I'm going to talk about his time in wrestling. And his time in wrestling was an embarrassment. Looking back at some of these Attitude Era Raws, like the 97 editions and stuff like that, especially when you started taking over creative, there were so many matches where it's like, oh, and it's over. Not that you'd want to see Ahmed Johnson try to wrestle more in a 3-minute match, because he could barely do 2 minutes, because the guy was now a shaped fuck. It was all storyline driven, which, look, there's nothing wrong with good storylines, but you have to have good matches follow. You have to. Some of the pay-per-views had some pretty damn good matches, but a lot of the TV was hot-shotted stuff in a lot of horrible angles. And a lot of stupid characters like DOA, I'm sorry. That was a stupid group. Truth Commission, which I feel bad for Don Callis, who's a pretty good talker. There's too much stuff to go into that Russo did wrong. Did Russo do everything wrong? No, Russo did not do everything wrong in wrestling. But he was a big reason why, again, WCW failed, and why people couldn't take NWA, TNA, why people couldn't take TNA seriously. Because, it's supposed to be no total nonstop action. No, it was tits and ass. That's what it was, because Russo just wanted to call it that. Now, nothing wrong with having a different name, but if they had named it Impact, way before the show ever got created, NWA Impact Wrestling, and then moved away and just been Impact Wrestling, that would have worked pretty well. But if they had named it Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, it would have been TNAW first off. But that name pretty much crippled it. But look, the whole reason why is Stevie Ray called out Vince Russo justifiably for what he said. Absolutely justifiably. And Stevie Ray spoke the truth. Whether I've been the biggest fan of Stevie Ray in the ring or not, his podcast has won me over, and he is a damn honest man and a damn good guy. Is he perfect? No. But he called out Vince Russo perfectly, said some stuff about some girl, I don't know, on the Freak Show podcast, or whatever the hell that was. I don't know. I never heard of it until now. Russo got upset about that and upset about Stevie Ray's opinions on China and stuff like that. But he kept twisting the words around because he didn't want to listen, because Russo has ADD and doesn't understand. And there's nothing wrong with people having ADD. I mean, I have ADHD. But he didn't want to listen. He didn't want to focus long enough and wanted to just go bro, and then bring up the thing about Stevie Ray's family and pick on the co-host there, when the co-host wasn't even doing anything wrong and was just trying to keep the show on track. But no, Stevie Ray had to defend his co-host, which is what somebody honestly does. And Russo just couldn't understand why people like Stevie Ray's show, and picked on the audio, which, yes, the audio for that sounded a little echoey on Stevie Ray's end. Russo's picking on that, and yet his stuff's glitching out and everything and like that. And the video and the audio's glitching out or whatever, because he has such top-of-the-line equipment there. He has such a professional studio. It looks like it's in a little attic, is what it honestly does. Now, again, I'm producing stuff just from my room, so I really shouldn't talk. But I'm not producing a professional show. I'm producing a fan-produced show. I'm not producing something as somebody that was in the wrestling business, because I was never in the wrestling business. I'm never going to claim I was in the wrestling business. But I'm actively angry the more often I see stuff about Russo. Like, I try to ignore it. The reason I watch this stuff is I wanted to hear what Stevie Ray had to say. And I wouldn't have blamed Stevie Ray if he had reached through the computer screen and slapped Vince Russo. Because maybe a cold hard slap of reality is what the guy needs. The guy is an idiot. I mean, how in the world can people say that Vince Russo is such a great, mind for wrestling? How can people say that when when you look at a lot of the characters that he produced, 90% of that shit was shit. He didn't know what he was doing. He just thought, oh, I'll do this stuff and Vince, will love me and this kind of stuff. And then he tried to claim that Vince paid him $1 million to go to WCW and he got $1 million from WCW. Now, I don't know if that's true. I would think it'd be pretty stupid. First off, I don't know why Vince would have thought that, I don't know why McMahon thought sending Russo to WCW would have killed it, because WCW is already killing itself enough as it is. The ratings by September had spiraled out of control when Bischoff got sent home. But the whole thing is, and I'm going to sum this up right here, I can't stand Russo. I can't stand the guy. I put over other people's podcasts, including that guy Andre Corbeil. Great guy to talk to. I just don't respect Russo. I do not respect Russo, and I never will. But I will never wish death or injury on the guy. Now, if he wants to wish death or injury on people, and he wants to be such a good-hearted Christian man, then okay, then he deserves to be called out on that BS. But, if he wants to believe in a fairy tale book, that's his problem. But we don't respect Russo. That's a lot of the vast majority of people do not respect him. If any of you watching respect Russo, cool, whatever. I'm not going to fault you guys for it. But I don't respect Russo. And a good amount of wrestlers and a good amount of fans do not. Because Russo was one of the worst things that happened to professional wrestling. Jim Herd, probably actually top of the line there. Because even with Jim Herd, it's like, at least with Russo, he was a magazine writer. He understood a little. He understood about that much of wrestling. About that much. Jim Herd was running a pizza chain before he came to, WCW. And now I'm going to move on to the last topic. Or actually 2 more topics. Paige is returning to the ring. Okay, cool, whatever. I hope that it works out. I hope she's able to have a long career. I don't see it working too well. I just don't. I just don't. I think she's going to have to leave the WWE umbrella when her contract's up sometime in 2019 to possibly succeed. Because I think that the bridge has been burned with WWE, and even if they put her back on TV, I think they're going to job her out. I think they're going to job her out for the remainder of her contract. She might come back at the Women's Royal Rumble that they're going to have, which if that happens, cool. And now the big news about WhatCulture. I'm a fan of the WhatCulture channel. I like WhatCulture. I'm impressed enough with it. I'm not impressed with everything with it, but I enjoy WhatCulture. But WhatCulture sent this out earlier today. It is with sadness that we must announce today that Adam Blampied, Adam Pacitti, Ross Tweddle, I don't know what the hell, King Ross, Sam Driver, who's one of the main editors, I believe, and Jack King, who was Jack the Jobber, will be leaving WhatCulture in the coming weeks to pursue other projects. We'd like to thank them for their work over the past 2 years and wish them all the best in their future endeavors. WWE stuff. While we understand this news will disappoint a section of our audience, we'll be using this opportunity to diversify, and I put that in quotations, and expand the product as a whole. We'll be introducing brand new shows, brand new personalities, and freshening up existing elements of all our channels. We look forward to sharing more announcements on this in the coming weeks. So I don't know what this means. I don't know if there was a dispute over pay, if WhatCulture is going through rebranding and got rid of people. Getting rid of Blumpy is a big problem. That's going to send the subscriber count down quite a bit now. There are some that don't care for WhatCulture. That's fine. I like WhatCulture. I think WhatCulture is really, really cool. Is everything about it cool? No. I like WhatCulture wrestling. What I've seen of WCPW is pretty cool, and it's nice that they have their own brand of live wrestling, their own wrestling company. And because that's the thing, taking Pacitti and taking Blampied out, that's a lot. That's like, those are authority figures there where it's like, I don't know if I take those guys out. But I like WhatCulture gaming, and I like WhatCulture, just the WhatCulture typical thing, and like, movies and stuff like that or whatever. That's pretty cool. Is it for everybody? No, but I enjoy it. This is a little bit crushing. I mean, they do have Simon Miller, and they still have some others like Ben and Jules and Peter, and various other people like that. They introduced a new girl, and I don't remember her name, Chelsea or something like that did Fast Count that Jack the Jobber usually does. She did fine. I thought she did actually just fine. I mean, especially for her first time being on camera, at least for What Culture, I thought she did just fine. So no, I'm a bit disappointed by this stuff that's going on with What Culture because at times I love What Culture. I love the top tens. I love the reaction videos that Adam and Adam do. Sure, some of the characters and everything are kind of ridiculous, but they're still wrestling fans, and I'm going to respect them for that. They've never, it's like, I mean, I've tweeted very few of them, but I don't think I've ever been tweeted back necessarily. But they've never directly insulted me, so I have no cross words to really say about them. But I'm disappointed that What Culture is going through this rebranding, especially with Blampier leaving, because I like Blampier quite a bit. I think the guy's awesome. And the others, I don't want to see anybody without a job. But honestly, change is inevitable, but I wonder if this is going to send their subscriber count down like a lot. I wonder if maybe What Culture is not necessarily burning through money, but maybe they don't. Maybe they want to cut, build the revenue for their, the bosses want to build up their own revenue and cut higher paid people and hire lower paid people, kind of like what Anthem's doing with Global Force. Well, now what maybe Impact Wrestling. That may be interesting, since they may have to go back to Impact Wrestling and not Global Force, which means they'd have to introduce new titles. This rebranding's not going so well. But What Culture, it sucks with the changes. I am disappointed. I don't know if I'm going to watch it as much, but I do like the What Culture YouTube channel. Is it my favorite channel ever? No. The Escapist. I mean, I said that before. Yahtzee Croshaw. I've said it before on other shows, but Yahtzee Croshaw is absolutely awesome. Zero punctuation, judging by the cover, are tremendous shows. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on all that. So anyway, do you agree? Do you disagree with what I've said? Like, share, comment, subscribe. My Twitter link is in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I will see all of you soon.